some of you will know that I am really interested in photography, and I have had for a very long time, a Nikon D7000, which I absolutely love. The only problem with it is that it's 7 years old now. I think maybe older than that. So I thought it would be the best time to do my review on it, since I don't really talk about tech. I say I use it a lot. I said try different ways. I tried different setups, but I never really used my Nikon for video because the video on it really sucks. It's this really soft 180p. Interestingly enough, though, the image quality is really outstanding, and even for today's standards, with a good bit of glass, like this 50mm 1.8, this camera really makes awesome images. So that's the naked body. It's like this one is not too bad. There's always been this battery grip on it. This has the most scuffs on it. It's really what took the toll of all this hard work as a photographer. But honestly, for the digital camera, I was scared at some point that I would have to clean the sensor, lift up the mirror, clean with a little brush and everything. And that's like the best way to ruin a camera. But I've been changing lenses quite a lot. I have this one, which is the kit lens. There's always a lens filter on my lenses, and it's not so sharp. It's not such a good lens, but it was a good pair with that because I have a good range. It's an 18 to 140, so I can manage some zoom and at the same time remain at quite a big angle, quite a wide angle, and I really like that aspect of this lens. The only problem is the very, very slow focusing speed. That's awful. And that's what sucks about it. The focusing speed is shit. The color rendition contrast is not really there, so you really have to shoot raw with that camera, and that's also a really nice point of that of the Nikon D7000. It's that the raw files are pretty good. They're pretty detailed. There's not a lot of depth in the files, so you have to have a good exposure technique. But once you have found out the best way to shoot, for me it's always everything manual. I have a set speed that I want to maintain, and then I change the aperture in conjunction with that. Also, I love the little depth of field button and the programmable button here. I always use that for my level because sometimes I'm not really sure. The horizon is not really visible in some cases, and that's like it's a very good all-rounder. Photography has not changed that much in the last 2 years, so the basic kit is there. There's a diopter for people who have glasses like me. There's a screen protector. That's dumb, but they've removed screen protectors from most cameras now. I know there's a lot of glare in it, but I don't really give a shit. I prefer my camera to stay in pristine condition for the longest while. And also something that they're doing now that is quite dumb is removing the integrated flash. Like the pop-up flash in cameras is pointless. It's shit. But once you pair it with a slave flash like this, there's a sensor here. So you just pivot the head, put it at the angle that you want. You can set it to TTL, and the flash is gonna decide everything, best settings, and you just leave it like that. You just have to change the white balance on your camera to avoid it being too blue, and you're fine. You can separate the foreground with background because you can sometimes have very backlit shots where the background is super highlighted and there's no details in it to see. But with the commander flash on this, you can trigger the slave flash, and have a perfectly balanced picture, and you can change depending on where the sun is. So now cameras like the D500 without the pop-up flash are, to me, the dumbest thing, because, you know, Yeah, it's a little bit more waterproof, there's less stuff to break, but if that breaks, I don't care, I can rip it out. It doesn't really matter. For as long as I can have it for a while and that it works with that, I don't have to buy the wireless kit to make that work. That's really interesting. Well, that's really important to me because I'm trying to save money as much as possible, which is why I'm selling this camera. It's been my workhorse, it's my buddy, I love it, but it's a little too heavy. I don't think I'm gonna go back to Nikon that soon. I'm gonna miss the dual card slots with programmable outputs. That's really cool. The write speeds on this are really nice. They're really fast for a camera that old, and paired with a good card. Now cards are super fast for the same standard as this, so you can have like a pro level camera with this. My big issue was that I often turn to lenses like this. I use fast primes like the 85-1.8 or the 50mm 1.8 because I shoot in low light most times and I don't often have a tripod. That's one of my pet peeves. I don't carry a tripod, that's way too heavy. I don't have the money to buy a good Gitso tripod. I have a Joby GorillaPod, but with this, the ball head is fucked up. It doesn't work. It doesn't hold the camera. So, and especially when I have this battery grip on. And that's also one of the greatest features on this, even though it keeps disconnecting when the camera is tilted, and that's a little dumb. The placement of the connector is bad. But that's all things that they've fixed now. Like the battery life you gain because of that, these 6 batteries, is awesome. I can go for a trip, I can go for 2,500 shots, I'm not even worried. The battery in this is a beast. It's still used today in the D750 and the D500, so it's one of the greatest batteries I think they made, and it's the first use, or pretty much the first use that they have had for this battery. So all of that aside, my reason for selling this camera is because the ISO performance is not good enough by today's standards, and for the handheld shooting that I'm doing these days, I much rather use my Fuji X100F, because that goes to like easily 1200 in, well, 12,800 ISO, and I'm not scared I'm gonna have a blurry shot. I'm not scared I'm gonna have a grainy shot. I won't have color noise or the bad color fringing I have with this lens wide open. And that's mainly why I'm changing camera. I'm not changing system. I'm trying to limit my equipment because I'm going to go for a trip very soon. I'm going to travel. I want the lightest equipment possible. So I have a Joby GorillaPod tripod that's aluminum. That's an aluminum tripod. It's really light. My Canon EOS M3 is basic gear for film. I don't need 4K. I won't display in a huge cinema screen for a very long time. And whenever I do, if I do, I will have the means then to buy a better camera. I have the simplest mic. I have a good recorder. So my setup is pretty light. And I try to keep it that way, because when I add that, and that, and that, and that, and this, spare batteries, my flash, that all becomes too much. And like, the things I'm gonna keep are the flash, because it's a slave flash. It will trigger with my Fuji X100F, because it has a commander setting. And I won't keep any of the lenses because that's goddamn heavy. That's shit at wide aperture, and that's the reason why I bought it. And that's the perfect lens, but it's $229 now, so I don't mind it. It's a small purchase whenever, if ever, I come back to a system like this. Because now with the EOS M3, everything, well, all of that sold, all these pieces except the flash, I can easily buy the adapter for the EOS lenses on the Canon EOS M3 and then buy some fast primes, and Canon is renowned for their very good fast primes. So my Nikon, which is my baby, my favorite camera, and the camera I learned to work with, will leave me because I simply can't afford it. But what I gained from that camera is simply the knowledge of how photography works. Because when you add this, okay, you have better balance for really, really long lenses. They sell it mainly for portraiture, bigger battery. That's not very useful to me. What I really care about is having a heavy lens. I prefer to keep it balanced, or whenever I rent a lens, very long zoom lens, it's too heavy for the simple camera. There's no grip, there's not enough hold on it. So just having the battery grip is great. The controls on it don't work enough, the connector under it is not good enough. So the battery charge is useful, but it's mostly to balance the camera. What I'll miss though is that optical viewfinder. That's a marvel. It's the single thing I miss the most when changing to a mirrorless system. It's that I can preview my shot before even turning the camera on. The camera turns on in the blink of an eye. I turn the switch, I can take the picture. It's, I think, 0.19 millisecond. So that's crazy fast, and there's no other camera that I have that can start up this fast. Everything electronical is too slow. So I love reflexes for that. And the kind of fast burst rate, it's 5 shots per second, but the buffer is hit really quickly. So it was lagging behind in front of other cameras. And the lenses are okay good, but there's better now, and the camera's software is not prepared to match this. The camera software is not updated enough so that the color fringing in this lens is maintained or controlled, and the aliasing filter in it does an okay job, but it really darkens the shot, it blurs everything a little bit. So I'm going for a really, really sharp look now with my Fuji. The Canon is still soft, but it's better, it's just for video because the battery life is so bad. So you will see me make a lot of pictures still. I just wanted to tell you my impressions on this system because I've used it for so long, and I know it's been out for a very long while, but it's super cheap now. You can have it cheaper than the D3400, the little beginner one, and it's a great camera. Like, the white balance hits perfectly, everything in auto mode, the picture looks perfect, it looks print ready. But when you want to make bigger prints or have a more discreet setup for street, like, that's really loud. It's about as loud as me when I talk. So it's not discreet for street shooting. It's not very stable for long exposure shots in the street, but it's sturdy as hell. It's never gonna break. It sounds better, I think, than the new little cameras that sound like you're firing a laser gun. And all of that makes it a real good beginner camera, better than the new ones, because people have paid the depreciation on this. It was 1,000 brand new, it's now 500 something, so you can really get good old gear. Like, if you look for a professional level, you can go at the D3X, the Nikon D3X. That's 24 megapixel. It's one of the best color rendition all around. It has a super good focus speed. The battery is awesome. Like, you don't have the mic recording for pictures that you have on the D4S, D3, D4, but that doesn't really matter. You have a really, really good camera, and it's 2000 now, whereas it was 9000 when it was brand new, and that's the reason why I always prefer to buy used gear, like this lens, even though it's not that good. And all the rest also that I have, I always prefer pre-owned, because people have already paid the very sharp descent in cost. Because what you buy is always at least twice as expensive as what it cost the shop who sold it, and it's 4 or 5 times more expensive than for the company who built it. So if you're looking to put your hands on this one, or on a camera like this one is sold, but there's so many online. You can go on Amazon, you can go on henrys.com, you have Adorama that has a really good pre-owned service, B&H also pretty good, and used gear for me is the way to go, because now cameras are stalling a little bit. APS-C sensors are getting better, but full frame sensors like the D700, the D750 used, the D3, D3X, they are awesome purchases, and they deserve the credit of being a good camera. So on that note, very long video, I don't usually talk this much. I will leave you and hopefully make more frequent videos, maybe gear-oriented videos if that's an interest for people. I will try to make vlogs, but I don't have a very interesting life, so I will keep it at what I'm comfortable with and try to present some of the pictures, photographic work I do. So hopefully I will see you back on the channel very soon, and I hope you're having a great day.